As we spotlight Black history in the month of February, we asked award-winning poet, educator, and cultural activist, Professor Opal Palmer Adisa, to share with us the impact of Black poets on Jamaica and the world's history. Good morning, Prof. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Morning. And I just want to say poetry is one of the best ways to talk about love, you know? So I'll add that to the mix.
Absolutely. Listen, and so I'm glad you started that way because poetry is the place to talk about everything. It's
Absolutely.
love, it's history, it's social issues, it's culture, it's so many things. And so there are so many Black poets that have impacted the world. This morning, I guess we're only going to be able to talk about a few.
Yeah, very few. We might want to start off with Louise Bennett. You know, the book 100 Voices is out.
Right.
And Miss Lou talked about love. Her love letters as classical poem.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she talked about politics and culture. She
Mm-hmm.
definitely emphasized the Jamaican nation language, so that was a very important thing. And she had tremendous impact not only in London, in New York. You know the famous Harlem Renaissance poet Langston Hughes, and
Mm-hmm.
worked with him. So her impact in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, and elsewhere is well known also in Canada. So
What,
Jamaican poets have really impacted the world and continue to do so.
yeah, and one of the things about Miss Lou's poetry for me, along with language, is she's such a social archivist. Like, I can read Miss Lou's work and tell you what happened in Jamaica over a period of time, and senior as well, um, you know,
Oh, yeah,
Goodison.
Miss Lou definitely documented the time, and she is a cultural activist and an archivist, as you say, because you'll know if you didn't know Jamaica had tram cars, you read Miss Lou poems, you'll know that, you'll know about the fruit vendors and the things they said, you'll know about bands of women, you know, what was going on politically with women. So Miss Lou definitely had her hand on the pulse of the culture and what was going on at the time and documented that quite effectively.
Yeah. Someone else who, and you mentioned Miss Lou being in the UK with Langston Hughes, Una Marson. Wow. Wow, wow.
Una Morrison also is a very important figure, a feisty feminist. And
Yes.
if you don't know that she worked with Haile Selassie and was very much fighting, you know, advocating for to ensure the freedom of Ethiopia. So again, another formidable woman. And Claude McKay, you know, Claude McKay is credited as being an African American poet, and certainly he was a poet during the Harlem Renaissance. And Winston Churchill uses very famous sonnet, If We Must Die, to rally the British Army and didn't say it was written by a Jamaican man. So Claude McKay also had tremendous impact, not only in North America, but also he went to Russia, he spent a lot of time in Morocco, he went to France, he had really international acclaim. So he's one of our Jamaican poets to be celebrated for sure. And then in more contemporary times, we have people like Jean Benter Breeze, Michael Smith, Lorna Goodison, of course, Kwame Dawes, Olive Senior, who is now our poet
Laureate.
laureate. Yeah, Claudia Rankin. And
Goodison.
Claudia Rankin and myself gets subsumed under the African American thing. Marcia Douglas, Jacqueline Bishop, you know, and vice versa. A lot of Jamaican poets will tell you they were influenced by Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, Amira Baraka,
Yeah.
you know, poets from the 60s who were fighting about protests, as well as Afro-Cuban poet Nicolas Guillen and Martinican poet Amy Césaire, who had tremendous influence on my own writing
Yes.
and sensibilities.
Yeah. You know, I think McKay is one of those poets that we have to reclaim as Jamaican people. I don't think Jamaicans know enough about him. And you are correct. When you go through the, Black History Month and African American poets, McKay is seen as an American poet for all that he's done for the Harlem Renaissance.
Right, and is Tropics in New York is such a classical poem that really identifies him. You know, banana ripe and green and ginger root, cocoa in pods and
Yes,
alligator pears.
yes,
That's all, you know, Jamaica he's talking about because
yes,
that's where he
yes.
grew up. Yes.
And the Harlem dancer. So it to me, when some of the poets that you've mentioned, Prof, um, again, the importance of documenting, the importance of expressing, I would say, the tone of the society in which they existed, and the importance of articulating just some of the issues and challenges being faced. That's a great
Yeah, and it's
responsibility.
also about giving us a place, and
Yeah.
giving our sustenance and our topography and our geography an identification. So that's one of the important things that poets do.
Mhm.
They give us a location and a place, and they give a face, if you might, to our culture and who we are.
Mhm.
And so many of the writers have done that, and the influence, the cross fertilization. I also need to mention some of the negritude poets, among Aimé Césaire and Leon Dimas and Leopold Signor from the French
French.
Caribbean,
Mhm.
and the influence they also had in terms of they were a precursor to the 60s, the poets who came out of the 60s and still are being drawn on by some of our contemporary poets now.
Yeah, it's Black history, and so it would be remiss if we don't speak as well about how much these Black poets have helped to advance the narrative about race and the discussion about race. You mentioned the negritude poets. How important have they been as well in this ongoing discussion
Poets
about
have
race?
been, poets are arrested, poets are held up as in all revolutions and all transformations that happen in a society. Because, as you say, poets give voice to the people, they give voice to the struggle, they help to frame some of the issues that are taking place so that we better understand, or they rally the masses, because the masses hear the poems and say, yes, we want justice, we want freedom. And
Hmm.
that's also been true of the Black Lives Matter. I mean, there's been a compilation by this African poet that I know, and I did the introduction for, of 1,000 poets from all over the world who are writing for the Black Lives Matter movement. So
Yeah.
poets are very important in the transformation of a society and in helping the society to, give language to its struggles and its desires and its goals.
Yeah, they also tie us together. When you look at poets like Linton Kwesi Johnson capturing the migratory experience, and poets who connect us as Black people, as Caribbean people, wherever we are across the world. The poet weaves us together as a people. Yes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And again, language transcends boundaries.
Hmm.
So, you have those poets in Canada, whether they're Jamaican or otherwise, Afua Cooper, or Norby's Phillips, who has written The Zong,
Hmm.
about what happened in Jamaica here. Those poets do the history that has been buried. They raise that history and they bring us together. It's not about being Jamaican or Trini or whatever. It's about us being Caribbean and celebrating our history and culture and understanding the commonality in the struggles that we have encountered and moving forward. So that's a very important aspect of poetry,
Hmm.
and we really need to celebrate it more and teach it more in our curriculum.
Yeah. And of course, I mentioned Linton Kwesi, so the dub poets, and in terms of their musicality and how we could talk all morning.
Yes, we
From,
could.
we
And I
could.
just want to say, people like Linton Kwesi Johnson, Lauren
Jean.
Wilson, Jean Benter Breeze are all in the 100 Voices for Miss Lou. MUTABARUKA, of course, the
Hmm.
dub poets, very much influenced by Miss Lou, as Muta will say, and also a part of the 100 plus Voices for Miss Lou. So, it's a very important coming together, a collection that brings a lot of voices together, both contemporary and not so contemporary, to speak about who we are and to celebrate Miss Lou and the poetry of Jamaica that has influenced, like our reggae music, that has influenced the world.
Excellent. Prof, always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. I just want to end with a few lines of my own, which is, There was nothing before this place of rivers and trees, ex-Mica, Jamaica. I am the Caribbean, I am the maroon where my roots are planted, and a Cuba land before it became Africa when the world knew it as mother, mankind. I snake my way, carrying and taking, transforming pyramids into huts, golds into beads, forgetting the knowledge I gifted the world. I rise like fog that is ensconced in the Manique Hills, obliterating everything.
Powerful. Thank you so much. Poet, educator, and cultural activist, Professor Opal Palmer Adisa. Coming up, education